All right, welcome. This is Jay Larson, CEO of the Idaho Technology Council, and you're joining us for Innovation Matters, which is our weekly podcast that we do. And it's a rainy May 14th. And 2 weeks ago, we had such a violent weather in the valley that power was out for 2.5 hours. But today we're going to have just three wonderful guests to join us to talk about COVID-19, the causes that's taken place in our state and worldwide. The thought of the day before we start that is from Thomas Edgley, who's a pioneer that helped establish back in the latter part of the 1800s, mid 1800s, the western part of the United States. And he said something, change or die. And I think that with everything that takes place in our lives, we always have to find out the way we need to adapt and change and take advantage of opportunities that are presented to us. So we have with us today, Brent Berg will be coming to us from Valiant Productions, talking about all of the things that have taken place there. We also have Greg Wilson, the Senior Policy Advisor from the Office of Governor Little, and he'll join us to talk about education, computing literacy, and things that are happening with our urban and rural areas. But first, we'll start with Steve Cilley, CEO of Ataraxis, PEO. He's going to join us. He also is a serial entrepreneur. He's going to talk about several different things like true care, patient care, and what is health in the healthcare field. But first, Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Jay. It's always great to hang out with you.
It's always good to have you, Steve. Thanks. So Steve, talk a little bit about, if we can, let's start with Ataraxis, Ataraxis PEO. Can you tell us a little bit about what Ataraxis does and how long ago you started and why you started it?
Sure. Ataraxis is a professional employer organization, which means we go in with our clients and co-employ their employees and take over the administrative side of being an employer. So we do all the payroll, the benefits, the work comp, the unemployment. And then one of our big specialties and what we do is that we provide a full HR department. So we're not just advisors to our clients, we actually integrate in with our clients and become their HR, just like we do for the Idaho Technology Council. We provide all those services for our clients so they can focus on their business. And, I can tell you that that's one of the big things that we've done lately with COVID-19 and all the things that have been either put on employers by, like the Paycheck Protection Program and all the things that employers needed to do for that, understanding that, what it was going to be, tracking all the information. That's what we're doing for our clients. So it's a lot of work, and I'm glad that we could be there for them.
When did you start, Steve, and how long ago?
I started.
Why?
Yeah, so we will be 10 years old in July, and we were planning a big party. So I don't know that we'll have that big party. Maybe we'll do a virtual party. But so 10 years in July as we've been servicing clients. I started working on the company and getting it set up about 2 years before that. So about 2008. 2009, we really started putting it together. And the reason I started is I was looking for a PEO that would provide these services and do all the work that I didn't have to have anybody on my staff that was dedicated to working with them. I wanted a partner, and I couldn't find one that actually could provide me the service. They had a lot of products, things they wanted to sell me, but I still had to have an on-site contact or somebody that was always working directly with them. For my employees to talk to work with them. And I thought it should be something that's open to the employees and easy to work with. So I figured I wasn't the only one that had that problem of not being able to find one that worked that way. So I started one. I had two other companies at the time. So that's, we used them as guinea pigs on figuring out the service levels.
Which is always great. So, yeah, and we have to tell you, you know how to throw a good party. That's one thing that we always know about Ataraxis. The second part about Ataraxis is you do a wonderful job. You've been for the last 11 years, you've been our PEO. Well, I should say 10 years because you were the same time you started.
You came in right after we started. Yep.
Yeah, and we really appreciate all the work you've done for us. So let's talk a little bit about Steve Cilley, though. You've been a serial entrepreneur. You have multiple companies. What is it like to be a serial entrepreneur? and you've taken a lot of risks with a lot of different companies. Tell us a little bit about what that is like for you personally.
Well, I apparently get bored easily, so I got to find something to entertain myself. I used to be, and a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of my friends that are entrepreneurs, have that shiny object syndrome where they chase any shiny object. And I realized that I had that problem, and I was getting involved with businesses probably about 6 or 7 years ago that I really probably shouldn't have been involved with because they had no relevance to what my core I was working on. And so I kind of had to figure out what my core was. And for me, it's really being involved with anything that maximizes human potential. That's really what I like to see. And so I do nonprofits. Some of the nonprofits I work with are that way, but the businesses that we're working in, whether it's helping people figure out how to find the best job for them, whether it's helping with something healthcare wise, it makes it so it maximizes what people can do for their health and their wellness. And also then how an employer can make things better. So that's where I tried to keep anything that was a core. And so once I focused on that, I actually ended up having more opportunities that I was involved in, and I had to say no to than I even had before, because I realized how it related.
Is that kind of also kind of you making a difference as you maximize that human opportunity? You're making a difference in those lives, and and that's what you like to focus on. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I that's what I believe that there's a way we can make money and while we actually do some good for everything and for the people involved.
So one of the big areas you've started a company called True Care. It's a healthcare company. Talk to us about True Care.
Well, True Care, I've got some really great partners. I did not do that alone. I actually ended up, we were another company that we had called Joe Boo that Greg's familiar with, and I know you're familiar with. We had a good software development team, and one of my partners came to me and our CTO and started talking to us about True Care, and brought in some other great people to be involved with it. And we started looking at what would it take and how could we make an app that's patient-centered, that really allows the patient to own their own health history and all their own health information, and how would that look, and how could they share it, and how could you get transparency into the health industry to where people understand how much it's going to cost to get something done, so they're not surprised by it. How could they easily schedule appointments and manage their health life, which includes all the paying of the bills for that too. So we started with some of our partners in there, working with Salzer Health, Tommy Alquist and Ed Castledine with Salzer Health, and developing this product, which we'll be rolling out with them and their first urgent cares at the first part of July this year. And so what it will do is it allows the patient, goes in, builds their entire health history. They can put in wherever they've had anything done. We will go out and gather that information, which we have found, while there is patient portability and you're supposed to be able to share health records, it is not easy to get health records from different providers. So they have to be able to share it, but it's just not easy to get it. So what we're trying to do is find a way we can get it all in there so that somebody can actually own their entire health history and then share it with whoever they want to. And so with Salzer, when they schedule their appointment, they actually will have all their intake forms and everything will be done. All the forms that you've had to do when you go to an appointment, every time you go to an appointment, you won't have to do those anymore. You'll just go in, you'll be able to find an appointment and you'll be able to schedule it. Urgent cares.
So July will be your beta test on this. Or have you already done it? Well, this is going to be your full live beta test then.
That'll be the first live rollout with their new urgent cares. Now, what we've been doing over the last few weeks is working with Salzer and Crush the Curve. We're getting True Care to a place where we can have it, so it's the one you can schedule your COVID appointments to be able to for the testing of COVID. So we're waiting for Apple to approve the app. That's basically what we're waiting for. Google approved it and Apple's been sitting on it. So we're really hoping that they do that, because we've got a lot of good we can do for people. And scheduling appointments to get tested for COVID And once that's out, then that's the app. We've got some improvements we'll have right after that too. But as soon as that's out, then we'll be out testing with helping Salter schedule the tests at all the different locations that they're doing here, and then hopefully around the state.
Okay, so congratulations on all of the work that you've been doing in that space with TrueCare. What I will love to have you on in the future to be able to give us an update about how that rollout went and how things are going, and crushing the curve and what's been going on with Tommy Alquist and so forth. So one last question for you, Steve. So with COVID-19, what's been the biggest impact, either you personally or for your companies?
Well, I think really it's been, and we've seen this not only for our own companies, but for our Ataraxis and our clients there, is how do you take working in an environment with all your coworkers day to day, being around them all the time, and then immediately changing that to where everybody's separated, it has to work from home. How do you maintain productivity and still get not only your work done, but stay communicating? And that's been, I think, everybody's challenge. And I think we've done a really good job of it. I actually really proud of our staff and all the companies of how fast they've been able to shift over to working at home. Because that's really we're essential businesses. We have a few people in the office, but like the software development companies, they aren't essential. But we've got a niche where it makes us really, really essential and necessary. And working from home and being able to communicate like this. I mean, if we would have three months ago, Jay said, "Hey, we're going to have a meeting on Zoom, and we're going to broadcast it out and expect people are going to watch it," probably wouldn't have been much to it. We might not have had a whole lot of people. We would have tried to do it in person and had them all come to the meeting. Now we're able to do this kind of thing, and in only 2 months, we really don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
And that's been the amazing part. And I think it's going to change the way we do business forever.
Well, I think you're right. This is transforming that change or die concept, right? Because what's interesting is that when I call your office and I need to get some help on certain items, the person answers the phone and says, "Okay, let me see what I can do." I know what they're doing is they're just sending out a deal, trying to find out who's available to talk to me. And then they immediately find the person. Then they transfer me to the person, and it's seamless, but that person's working from home.
Right.
And it's amazing what you've done. And congratulations on the technology and how you've been able to deploy that and take care of your customers on it, Steve, and the pivots you've been making within Ataraxis and TrueCare and other companies you have going on. So we'll have you on in the future to tell us more about things that are going on. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. We'll have some advertising and some messaging out soon on TrueCare with Salter about how you can download the app and get things filled out so you can take advantage of their new urgent cares that open up in July.
Sounds great. So thanks, Steve Cilley. Appreciate all you do, man.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Jay.
All right. Thanks. Let's move over to, this is a great opportunity for us with Brent Berg, who, Brent, I want to call you the CEO, but I think you have a whole different name for what you like to be called at Valiant. But before we start on that, Valiant does some amazing stuff. All of the events, every year we've done the Hall of Fame, Brent's been part of it. And the Hall of Fame is an extraordinary event simply because of the audio-visual that Brent and his team brings to it with Valiant. So Brent, thanks so much for all you do for ITC and promoting events.
Yeah, thank you very much for being a great supporter of us.
That's great. Brent, tell us about Valiant and also as you do that, tell us a little bit about some of the changes that have taken place over the last several months.
Yeah, for sure. And Steve's last point really emphasizes what we have here in that we started Valiant 4 years ago doing live events. We do sound lights and video support for live events. We prefer to be in person to do events, but with results of everything that's happened now, we had to pivot ourselves and find a way to be able to keep supporting our clients in all of their events, but to do it virtually and to do it, more than just sitting in your living room or wherever you may be trying to figure out how to have a call. So we our warehouse here, we're in about 12,000 square feet here, and it's normally just hustling and bustling with trucks unloading and loading and trying to get stuff set up for concerts and corporate events and things like that. And now we have converted it to be a virtual studio so that people can come here and continue to have their events that they would have had, but now can have a big audience with a live event. So that was the major pivot that we had to do here, because all of our live event business just died. And we know that it'll come back at some point, and we'll be ready for everyone when it does come back. But in the meantime, we're here ready to go and excited to help people with their virtual events. We do all sorts of things here, like we do concerts on the weekends. We pick a local artist here in town, and they come here to our studio. And on Thursday and Friday, Saturday nights, sometimes Tuesday nights, they come here and we stream it out on Facebook, YouTube, and we pick a nonprofit that benefits from it so that we can try to give back to the community a little bit by supporting the bands and supporting the nonprofits. We also do a lot of corporate meetings here. We've had several meetings here that we were scheduled to do live, and they've actually had more attendees on the virtual than they were going to have at the live, as well as we've done some fundraiser galas, and they've been able to actually raise some more money than what they had anticipated with doing with their live events. So we've seen a pretty cool pivot here with the way that virtual events are done. And we've been really excited to be kind of on the forefront in the community with being able to bring professional virtual events out to all of their
That's so Brent. So the one thing that's been, I mean, I can
That's
remember
kind of where we're at.
No, I love it. But the changes that have taken place. But I want from like one of our Hall of Fame events. Remember when Steve Young came and spoke and Steve Young brings a great, 49er great quarterbacks, 18 years in the NFL, inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2005. And then he has been in 18 years in private equity, probably about 19 or 20 now years of in private equity. And he comes up and he brings a tremendous amount of energy to the stage. But the reality of it is that without what Valiant did at that event, it would have been fallen flatter because the music, the video, remember how we threw footballs out to the audience? You guys were able to do things. And then you actually captured, because you had 3 cameras and you captured the whole thing. And you made it, you made this event, amped it up to the point where you brought energy and power. So I wanted to tell you thanks for that. But now that we have this big change where I can't hold an events, like we're supposed to be having Capital Connect this week, next week, and I can't hold the event like I would normally have. So one of the options is I can go in and, I don't know, are you able to move around and show people your studio at all? Are you able to do that?
So I'm in the video control suite right now. So this is kind of our master command here.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and take you behind the curtain.
We're going behind the curtain. Hang on, everyone.
Going behind the scenes. Yeah, we're getting set up right now for some concerts coming in this weekend, but we'll get out here.
This is kind of like the Mr. Wizard or the Wizard of Oz right here that we're getting this experience. So
right here is our studio space. So we have a rear projection screen. We have a bunch of lights set up. So one of the things that we have at live events is we have a lot of moving lights that kind of create the ambiance of the live event to make it exciting. And we do the same thing here.
That's the actual event where you have that, Brent. That's good. So you could see the whole, all of the opportunity. Who are some of the people you told me about, like the Boise State, was it the Alumni Association just had a big event there, stuff like that you do?
Yeah, so we did, last week, we did an event with the Boise State Alumni Association, and they had it completely virtual. It's normally an event that they hold in Stockholm, and they have hundreds of people attend, but they weren't able to do that this time. So we actually had all of their top 10 scholars that were nominated for this year. They all called in via Zoom, and we broadcast it back out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, went out on all those platforms, and we were able to have a host here on our stage And then we had all of their honorees call in, and then we were able to distribute that back out so that they could have thousands of viewers be able to see the event live as if they were in the audience, which was pretty cool for them to be able to even send it to family that wasn't able to ever would have been able to attend, just from the capacity of the venue and travel and things of that nature. Now people were able to attend that they wouldn't have been able to. But we've done a lot of other corporate events in here as well, that have been pretty cool.
And so you take the stage and you actually broadcast this virtual event now that you have the whole energy, everything you do, and everybody's still in their home, taking advantage of what COVID-19 and what our Governor Little is helping us to stay safe with. So that's great. So
yeah, and we've been able to, with advances in technology like Zoom, we're able to bring energy of attendees so that people that are on our stage can still see attendees' faces and still be able to interact with them real time as if it were a live event, which has been pretty significant.
That's that brings, you bring the real-time nature to it, but you're also adapting and pivoting to what's taking place because of COVID-19. Really great. Yep. Okay, so last question for you on this, Brent. I guess what's the biggest pivot that you've made, that Valiant's made, based upon COVID-19? What's it been?
It's been the virtual studio. We are so used to doing several shows every day of the week, going out, sending trucks out. We travel international, so all of that has stopped. Basically, everything that we did on a daily basis has now stopped, and we've had to adapt and change. And now we're here at the studio trying to make it so that all of our clients can still be able to communicate their messages out as if they were able to do it live.
Yeah,
which has been really hard, because our business is mobile. We travel all over the country, all over the world. I was in Bulgaria the week before the governor put the stay-at-home order in effect, doing an event there. So everything stopped, and it was really hard there for a minute. But we knew that messages from our customers needed to still get out to their attendees. Events still need to happen. So we had to pivot to make this happen so that they could deliver their messages.
And like you said, that whole stage, the studio that you just showed us, you looked at that 3 months ago, and that was just a warehouse, right?
Yeah, the room that I'm in right now was full of speakers and audio equipment and drape and all sorts of stuff that we had to find room for elsewhere so that we could set this up. We were fortunate that we had the space to be able to do it. But yeah, normally this warehouse is hustling and bustling with trucks unloading and loading and going through gear and testing gear, making sure gear is tip-top shape for the events.
Well, Brent, I got to tell you that the one that I heard you just say, that you really need to help people get their organizations and people get their messages out. And that is critical, especially during this time, is that we continue to message and inspire with the many things that are going on, whether it's Steve Cilley and what's going on at Ataraxis, or True Care and what's going on at Valiant. There are so many amazing things that are still taking place in our state that are going to help propel our economy forward. So thank you to Valiant and your team for all the many things that you do. So,
yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for being a big supporter of ours.
You bet. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Brent. Now let's move over to our final guest today. And the beautiful thing about this is we have Greg Wilson, who's been a big advocate of education. He's been a member of, he was the chief of staff for Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. And now he's really spearheading the education initiatives for the governor. Greg, welcome.
Thank you. No, I might be the least innovative and entrepreneurial here, but talking about all the businesses you guys have, built. But really, really glad to be here, and really an extraordinary time. And I think the comments about Zoom are really, really spot on. I mean, this is one of the smaller Zoom meetings I had a couple of weeks ago. I was on a Zoom call with superintendents 25, 30 from around the state, and have done that pretty regularly, and have become pretty good at facilitating pretty rowdy meetings where sometimes you got to kind of space. That's where the mute button comes into play. But it is amazing how quickly in the last 8-9 weeks we've been really able to adapt to technology. So, and I think that's what schools, whether it's K-12 schools or higher education, I mean, that's what they're really grappling with. There was a lot of conversations about remote instruction, blended instruction. Now we're forced in the position to having to be able to do so is the reality.
It is. And if so, I'm going to ask you, I know that you have this kind of emergency education task force.
Sure.
That you have right now. Talk a little bit about that and what's happening with education as a result of COVID-19.
Well, what we had to do, I mean, that week, and it was really mid-March, I think everyone, I mean, it feels like it was 5 years ago, but that in mid-March, right when the legislative session was wrapping up, is when Idaho really got its first case. And I mean, that weekend, everyone was really kind of grappling with, well, what do we do here? Schools didn't really have a playbook for dealing with this. And folks, the reality is get their news from national sources. And so when you hear about these flare-ups in Boise or Blaine County or Seattle, a lot of people didn't know what to do. And so what we had were a lot of schools closing down pretty quickly. I mean, within a matter of days, kind of no matter their circumstances, a lot of nervousness out there. And so what I ended up doing that first week was setting up a K-12 emergency council, which really represents all the different stakeholders in education. And I mean, the reality is K-12 education is I call it a pretty wily constituency. There's a real big diversity of opinions and thoughts. And that's when the regional diversity of our state really comes into play. And so I really put this together to help us kind of navigate all these changes that we were going to have to deal with. Early on, it was, having some kind of soft closure or delivering more remote instruction. And more recently, it's been about navigating budget cuts, which is kind of just an unfortunate, result of kind of the economic predicament we kind of find ourselves in right now.
Which is going to be challenging. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean,
sure.
You got to anticipate that the revenues that we're getting in our state are being significantly impacted by the tax revenues. And so this is a lot of the money that pays for our school system, and which accounts for one of the largest line items for the state budget, right? So
it's about 48%. So
48%, okay.
48% of the general fund goes to K-12 education. So it's really by far the biggest chunk. And so when you're talking about reductions in the budget, you kind of can't get to the numbers you need to get to unless the unfortunate thing is you make reductions to K-12. And I think, look, I mean, the governor's biggest priority is K-12 and all the different components of that. I mean, you guys talk about economic activity and kind of that, the future economy, and that's really fueled by having a talented workforce. And so K-12 is really at the foundation of that and all the different things that K-12 provides. And so it's not a place that we want to be on right now. I mean, our projected revenue forecast, the decreased revenue ranges from about 8.6% to about 14.4%. So obviously that's a pretty wide band. And so what we've done for next year, and kind of my previous meeting was talking, I was at the State Department of Education, and we were talking through kind of a plan for a budget reduction next year is about 5% is what we're projecting. And that incorporates the federal revenue, the federal support that we anticipate receiving. And then also the state has a pretty good amount of rainy day funds that we're going to be leveraging as we kind of move into this situation. And so that's kind of what the immediate effect of what we're dealing with. And I think we've put together a pretty good plan. I think the only unfortunate thing is we're having to hit pause on some of the governor's initiatives. I mean, that's the big downside of this. One of the things we really worked on was teacher pay, educator pay. And I think a lot of that had to do with, we had a very, very strong economy. And I had a lot of support from employers who recognized that when you have a more competitive economy, you have that competition. And so districts need the resources in order to pay educators, a very competitive wage. And I mean, one space where this is important is in career technical and other highly qualified technology teachers. Is that the reality is that, if you have a computer science degree, you can get a job in the economy that pays far more than anything you'd receive as an educator. And while we're going to continue to have that challenge, because at the end of the day, that's a state job or a government job, we wanted to try to make those jobs more competitive. But, teacher pay is just going to have to be on hold for the next year, at least, as we kind of navigate this crisis. Another piece that we talked about, Jay, was, the reduction plan we put forward envisions some targeted reductions in technology funding or state support for technology. And what we're really hoping, what we've become clear in talking with the federal government is the money that we're going to be getting in stimulus and other things are really going to help plug those holes and hopefully then some fulfill that need. Because the reality is this more blended learning approach where more technology is integrated in the classroom is just going to be the reality. And so what we're trying to focus on right now is addressing the digital divide. I mean, what we've really realized acutely is that some schools, their students don't have the devices or connectivity at home in order to deliver this, and teachers are picking up on that very, very quickly. So trying to address that digital divide that exists, it's obviously going to have long-lasting positive effects, and then the connectivity issue, and then the professional development around delivering your instruction in a virtual mode. And that's challenging, obviously, the younger a teacher or the younger the student is. The governor and I have sat on classes where you've had fourth graders, 10 fourth graders on a Zoom, and you can barely keep them under control in a classroom, much less on a Zoom. But, teachers are picking up on ways to engage students. And unfortunately, that's just going to be, or fortunately, that's just going to be more of the reality moving forward.
Greg, I really like the idea that you were talking about the rainy day fund. I mean, that's the reason we have rainy day funds set up, and where we can kind of come through unpredictable times like what we're having right now. So that's awesome. I want you to know how much I appreciated having Governor Little at Garfield Elementary for Hour of Code last December. And what was impressive is he was sitting in this fifth grade class, and he's sitting there and he's holding his own. I'm telling you right now, he did great. I mean, that technology stuff, he did great with all of that. And the other part that is this blended idea that you were just talking about, we're going to hear a lot more about that, aren't we? I mean, there's no way that
we are.
We're going to have a lot more when it comes to virtual things like IDLA, other virtual ways to have things, as well as having face-to-face things. So it's going to be, it's kind of a new day, like we've been talking about. We're changing our our education system, right?
We are. Well, it's just going to integrate more technology. And then the Idaho Digital Learning Academy, IDLA, is something else that they've really stepped up during these circumstances to continue to do all the great things that they're doing. And they're definitely going to be a part of this solution moving forward. You talk a little bit about when the governor was at Garfield Elementary and his passion for computer literacy. And I think a lot of the time the media talks about the governor's passion for early literacy, but that really does extend to computer literacy. And I mean, I think for me, the integration of more technology in the classroom and people utilizing technology in the ways that we're talking about, and it being part of more of the day-to-day instruction that's delivered in classrooms, I think it's just gonna maybe increase the pace by which students are learning those vital skills they need to go out in the economy. I mean, I look at, again, early literacy is important. I mean, you got to read, you got to learn to read to be able to read to learn. But computer literacy, I mean, that's something, and I'll just be honest with you, I'm a 34-year-old. I do not know how to code, but I probably should know in order to be a good citizen, a basic level of coding. We're with technology at all times. And I think that's kind of the aspiration that we want to target with students in the classroom now. I mean, I think no matter what field they're going into, I think a basic literacy when it comes to technology and coding and these things is going to be important to be a good citizen that's able to kind of navigate technology and be a smart consumer of technology.
Yeah, a consumer, and I think you're also talking a contributor to our economy, because the more that we have this understanding, like 3 weeks ago, Governor Little, and you were part of this, thanks for helping us set this up. We did Idaho Codes, where now we have about 1,700 students from all corners of the state taking a 120-hour coding course during this COVID-19 time. And it's all asynchronous, where they can come in and they'll do it on their own time frame, and it's all virtual. And and we, this is the type of thing where I know the part that I've really liked about Governor Little and everything that you guys are doing is that you're very focused on your ability to help change and take the student and help them deal in a digital world, right?
That's right. Well, and the asynchronous is another piece of this. So I'm talking a lot about blended learning, but the asynchronous, I've been talking to some folks who manage learning management systems, which a lot of districts around the state have, and they track some of the interactions that students are having with their teachers. And there's a lot more interaction, whether it's chat or email or whatever that might be, outside of traditional learning hours. And so I think this asynchronous piece is going to be something that, as people get more used to it, is just going to be more integrated into the way we deliver learning. That, brick and mortar is going to be there to some extent, even though at this point on May, 14th, we just don't know what the world looks like moving forward. But technology, I think people are just going to get more used to integrating technology and utilizing technology, whether it's students or teachers. And that's kind of what I've heard from a lot of school leaders, is they've just been surprised that, those educators who weren't as adaptive or accepting of technology because of the situation have to do that, and are realizing that there really are benefits and a big value added to utilizing that technology and reaching their students and addressing all the different pieces of teaching a diverse class that they might have.
Well, what you're saying, so let me throw this at you. So our big thought today was change or die, right? And so let me give you another thought on that. It's the only difference between a rut and a grave are the dimensions. So if I throw that into education right now, where it seems like for years we kind of plowed along, where innovation and technology and coding really hasn't been. I mean, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, I'll give this: only 13% of students that graduate from high school in the state of California have even taken a computer science class. Yeah. I'm just saying that because I was at a meeting where I just found that out. But I'm going to say that, so the only difference between rut and the grave are the dimensions. How do we apply that so we make this, so we bring, help train our students to be able to live in a digital world? So last thoughts on that.
Well, I've actually been, kind of before this crisis hit, I think that we're going to kind of get to a new normal where I can kind of address some of these outstanding issues. But I've been talking a lot to the STEM Action Center and Angela Hemingway, and obviously Idaho Technology Council and others, about that expansion of computer science offerings statewide. And I think, again, the more that we're integrating technology into the classroom, I think then that becomes more of a natural result, right? I mean, if you have this technology and people are integrating it, that's really the goal, is that we're wanting to target more of those opportunities. And I also think as we integrate more technology, one of the challenges has always been the professional development required in order to deliver that instruction. And again, if there's more technology being thrown around and integrated, and professional development targeting integrating technology in instruction, I feel like a natural result of that is going to be expanding these offerings. I think it's just an obvious, logical, next step, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I think that you get to a point where you come, and it's harder at the very start, and then you come out and you really start integrating a lot more and getting more teachers to develop, like you're talking about, having more course offerings, whether it be online or in person, brick and mortar. And then the other part that I think is going to be is we really appreciate the STEM Action Center, the Idaho STEM Action Center, and Angela Hemingway and her team, and everything that you and the governor does to be able to grow computing literacy in our state. Because from an industry standpoint, we feel it's the top priority that we have organically to grow in Idaho. So
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and Idaho Codes is a good example of one of hopefully more organic programs that crop up. And I think when I was talking to Representative DeMordon about it, it was this idea. I think some people are kind of like, our kids are home, they're home this summer, what are they going to be doing? And that's what was so great about this opportunity. It's like, I don't know about you, but I mean, I have an iPad, and I have, I learn a lot through my interaction with technology, and I don't see why that shouldn't be the case for other, for our students who are at home and integrating in other remote opportunities. And so I'm hoping again that the logical next steps in this is more of the things we're talking about, which is more computer science offerings and more STEM oriented opportunities. Just because technology is ubiquitous and it's going to be everywhere.
It is. And that's the biggest point, is how ubiquitous it is. And then the other part is we really do appreciate Representative Gayanne DeMordon and the work that she's done to be able to help bring Idaho Codes here, and the Success in Education and the Idaho STEM Action Center. So, Greg, we will take you up on that. We will continue to support and work with you on getting more computer offerings and more computer literacy in the state. And we really appreciate the leadership position that the governor's in and that you're in to be able to help this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's been a great Innovation Matters. We've really appreciated having Steve Cilley on the program, as well as Brent Berg and Greg Wilson from the governor's office. We hope you'll join us next week when we're actually going to have Kristen Ruffing. She's the Vice President of IT and Relationship Management for Amerisource Bergen, or MWI Animal Health, here in Boise. We also will have Amy Lentz. There's some amazing things that are happening with Idaho National Laboratory that will be joining us. And a surprise guest will be with us as well. So join us next week. And again, this is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council, keeping you connected with industry and government, because in Idaho, innovation matters. Thanks, and have a great day.